I was in my second year, and I, like many others, wanted to join up, and we were particularly wanted to join the Royal Air Force. Very well aware of it because before the war, my mother, who had been to Heidelberg University for 2 years before World War I to study music, well, she made a lot of friends at Heidelberg University. One friend was a Jew, and they were, as you can imagine, they had 2 boys, and this was in the early 1930s when Hitler was just really coming to power, and those boys got hounded all over the place, and eventually the family escaped to England before they got caught. So I always loved visiting Germany, had visited there several times. My mother took me on a walking tour through the Black Forest once. That was a wonderful occasion. And she took me to Heidelberg University and showed me the pub where she and all her fellow students used to meet. And after the war, and fairly recently, I wondered if that pub was still standing. And on the internet I discovered it was, and I had an occasion to go to Heidelberg, and I went there and visited it. It was still there. So you see stormtroopers everywhere, and the Hitler Jugend, the Hitler Youth. It was a strange situation for about the first year or so, or almost 2 years. The first 2 years, it didn't seem like a war. Nothing. There was no bombing or anything. The air raid sirens used to go off occasionally, and nothing happened. It was not until a couple of years after the beginning of the war that any bombs started being dropped. In June 1940, when I was 20 years old, I was liable to be conscripted anyway. Anybody over 17 who's able and fit had to join the forces. So that was not an option. It was in September 1940 that I joined up, and I chose to join the Royal Engineers and was sent to a training battalion in Aldershot, England, for about 6 months training. And then I was elected as being eligible for officer training, and I did another 6 months officer training, and so after a year I was a commissioned officer. The general training for a field engineer, you build bridges, improvise bridges, you learn to tie knots, proper knots. You learn how to dig a trench, you learn how to build a simple bridge, and also how to improvise a floating bridge. I remember when we were inoculated for tetanus and typhoid and all that, which causes a lot of pain. I had an inoculation here, and it still hurts. They sent us off on a 5-mile route march with all our uniform and a pack and rifle. But at first we were not affected at all. There'd be aircraft flying over us in Kent, and during the training at Aldershot, there was a lot of fights between German and English fighters, and occasionally we would see a plane shot down and go down in flames, and we didn't know whether it was one of theirs or one of ours. Quite a lively time. In the army, we were given preference for the supply of food. They made sure that we were fed, but certainly I remember the rationing at university. We were given our ration of sugar in a little cup of sugar and a little bit of something else. We were very well aware of it. We grew a lot of our own vegetables, or at least my father and mother did, and we had a 2-acre orchard, so we had lots and lots of fresh fruit. We were very lucky where we were. Next door to us were 2 girls, and one a bit older than me and one a bit younger than me. And that's being 2 miles away from the town where I went to school. I didn't have a chance of meeting many other young people, so it was just these 2 girls. No, there was nothing very serious about it, but they did have, at one time they had a girl coming to stay with them as a paying guest, and I fell in love with her. She was a very beautiful girl. I've still got a picture of her. We would usually go into Aldershot and go to a restaurant and have a meal, fish and chips or whatever. We were always hungry, and there was a lot of food available at the restaurants. My mother at the time had moved up to London. She was originally born in London. She was strictly a Cockney. She was born within the sound of Bow Bells. You know that expression. So she always loved London. And when soon after war broke out, she moved up there, and she stayed in London throughout the war. Her house was bombed twice. She lost 2 houses and just escaped with her life.